Weighed and found wanting. You've probably heard that phrase before, right? It's one of the most powerful and final judgments you can possibly deliver. See, it's not just about saying someone messed up or failed a test. It's much deeper. It's saying that their very character, their substance, is lacking. It's devastating. But to really get why it hit so hard, we need to go way back in time and uncover the ancient story behind it. And we hear versions of it all the time, don't we? Especially in politics. It's such a powerful critique. The idea is that a leader was tested, in a huge moment, a debate, a crisis, and they didn't have the integrity, the strength that the moment demanded. Plain and simple, they fell short. Or how about in sports? It's the ultimate way to describe a really decisive loss. It means one team was put to the test against a way better opponent, and, well, the gap in skill or maybe even heart was just undeniable. When it mattered most, they just didn't measure up. And of course, pop culture absolutely loves this phrase. I mean, who could forget this line from A Knight's Tale? It's used as the ultimate verbal smackdown, right? A taunt that just completely dismisses an opponent as hollow, as someone who lacks the true substance of a knight. It cuts right to the core of their character or, their lack of one. Okay, so we've got a pretty good handle on how to use it. But where did it actually come from? Well, to find that out, we've got to travel back a few thousand years to a wild story about divine judgment and the night an entire empire fell. So, our story takes us to ancient Babylon. We're inside the, let's say, very decadent court of a guy named King Belshazzar. The stage is set for a drama that is so famous, it actually gave us another phrase you definitely know, the writing on the wall. So Belshazzar is throwing this absolutely massive feast, and in what you can only describe as an act of pure arrogance, he orders his servants to bring out these sacred gold and silver cups, the ones that were looted from the temple in Jerusalem. Why? So he and his friends can use them to drink wine. Yeah, this was a major, major provocation. You can basically think of this whole story unfolding in 4 dramatic acts. First, you've got the sacrilegious feast, the king's big ego on display. But then, bam! That's all shattered when a mysterious hand just appears out of nowhere. This leads to an unreadable, coded message that totally freaks everyone out, and that sets the stage for the prophet Daniel to come in and deliver the final, shocking interpretation. I mean, can you imagine this scene? The party just grinds to a halt as this disembodied hand appears and starts writing these 4 strange words on the palace wall. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. The king is understandably terrified. His so-called wise men are completely baffled. It's an unreadable code, a divine message that desperately needs a translator. So the prophet Daniel is brought in, and he's the only one who can figure it out. He deciphers the message and explains that the word tickle, well, that's where our phrase comes from. Just picture him looking the king dead in the eye and delivering this verdict directly from God. Thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Chills. And look, this wasn't just some bad performance review. This was a divine death sentence. And the judgment, it was immediate and it was absolute. The story goes that on that very night, Belshazzar was killed and the mighty Babylonian Empire fell. Just like that. So that's the incredibly dramatic origin story. But let's go a little deeper. Beyond the story itself, what is it about the metaphor, this idea of being literally weighed on a scale that makes it so powerful and so timeless? Let's break it down. You have to remember, this metaphor was instantly understandable to people in the ancient world. Why? Because they used balance scales every single day to figure out the true value of things, especially coins, to make sure they weren't fake or that someone hadn't shaved a little bit off the edges. The scale was a symbol of objective, impartial truth. And this really breaks the judgment down into 2 perfect parts. First, weighed in the balances. That suggests a fair, impartial test. Your life, your actions, your character. It all gets placed on one side of the scale. And then you get the result, found wanting. That means you're deficient, you're too light, you don't have the substance needed to even things out. So obviously, we're not talking about physical weight here. The scale is measuring your moral and ethical substance. King Belshazzar's arrogance, his disrespect, his entire character was put on this divine scale and measured against a standard of justice and righteousness. And he just came up short. Okay, so we have a crazy origin story and a really powerful metaphor. So now the question is, why? Why has this phrase stuck around for centuries, and why does it still have so much punch and authority? Well, its lasting power really comes down to 3 key things. First, there's that old school archaic language, right? The thou art part. It just sounds timeless, gives it this almost biblical authority. Second, it's just so efficient. It's a complete character assassination in just a handful of words. And third, and this might be the most important part, is this powerful idea of moral weight. And this third point is really fascinating when you think about it. The phrase basically creates a physical metaphor for morality. It suggests that goodness, integrity, real character, these things have actual substance, they have gravity. But evil, vanity, corruption, those things are airy, they're light, they're hollow. Belshazzar wasn't just a bad guy, he was empty. There was nothing there. So let's bring this all full circle. This phrase has made an incredible journey, right? All the way from a divine judgment in ancient Babylon straight into our modern vocabulary, where we use it to deliver some of our sharpest, most cutting critiques. When you really break it down, it's pretty simple. The scale stands for any kind of objective judgment, whether it's divine or not. The weight that's being measured, that's your integrity, your personal character. And the deficit, that found wanting part, that's the crucial gap between who a person is and who they should be. And that is exactly why this phrase is so adaptable today. The original divine standard from the story? Well, it's been swapped out for our modern standards, the things we expect from our leaders, our sports heroes, and yeah, even from ourselves. The scale of judgment is still there, even if the one doing the judging has changed. Which, brings us to a final really important question. In our world of endless judgment, from social media to the 24/7 news cycle, we're all kind of being weighed all the time. So if you were put on that scale today, what is it that actually gives a life substance? What gives it the weight it needs to be found sufficient? It's a question that's just as relevant now as it was on that fateful night in ancient Babylon.